Welcome to Talking Out Cloud, the podcast where we discuss the latest developments in IT and cloud. And in today's episode, we're discussing sustainability. Is it achievable on public clouds? Let's talk. And with me, I have Gert-Jan. Welcome.
Hey, Wesley. Welcome.
We're back for the next episode.
Yeah.
And it's sustainability.
Yes. Difficult subject.
And I think it's a bit of a hot topic these days. Everyone's talking about sustainability and more like what is the environmental impact of your design choices and your infrastructure and
your carbon footprint.
Your carbon footprint, And I think we always found it important. I mean, we only have one planet. We want to do the best as we can. But now it also becomes a strategic thing at companies, right? Strategic decision. Unpopular opinion, I wonder what yours is. As a business, we do sustainability or we promote sustainability, not just because we find it important, but because it's good for marketing.
I know what you mean. And I think, but it's like you said, it's a topic for nowadays. I think every business, every company, every channel is talking about carbon footprint and sustainability. So it's good. Yeah, I get why you say that. Yeah,
I think it's important, but I think companies start finding it important because the world finds it important. But that's a good thing. I think a lot of those things happen. Good example, I've been working at Intercept for 10 and a half years now. Exactly 10 and a half years. Wow, 10 and a half years. And when I joined, I think 2 years in or 1 year in, we decided let's do ISO 27001, which is a good certification when it comes to information security and your policies and all of that. Did we do that day? And I'm going to be honest about that. Did we do that because we wanted better security? Absolutely not.
No.
We wanted it because when we talked to a customer,
you can show
they said, are you ISO 27001 certified? So that's why we did it. Years in, iterations, cycles over cycles, it brought us better policies, better security, and it made us better when it comes to security. But initially, definitely not for security marketing.
I know what you mean. And then at the long run, it will also become like a standard procedure to have that standard, I think. So people need to get used to it. And then at the later stage, it will be normal for them to have a certification or like the sustainability.
And there's a second thing that drives companies to make decisions with regards to sustainability, and it's money. If you are more sustainable, you do the right sizing, it's also cheaper.
It's cheaper. It's not normally when you want to be, then people think, it will cost money, but this will save you money. Yeah. In the long run.
And I think, there's like facts where data centers consume more than 1% of the worldwide energy, like electricity. So yes, they have a big carbon footprint, and Microsoft's got this net negative in 2030, where they want to have like less. Less. I don't know. I wrote it down somewhere. Oh, here, the carbon negative by 2030 goal, which means they want to decrease the carbon output instead of not just be first it was neutral. Now they want to become negative, which if companies like Microsoft say that, then that's a good thing because that means that we can use services like Azure. To also be more sustainable.
I read something that's region dependent when using green energy. So in West Europe, they will use natural resources for the energy, wind energy, solar energy, and that sort of stuff.
But also cooling, right? Cooling, like water. Where does it come from?
So we in West Europe are very far with that.
And there's also I was reading an article the other day where I don't think it quite works like that yet, but it's an interesting concept where if a data center generates heat, where does that heat go? So yes, that is, output. That's a carbon footprint. That's not very good for the environment. But what if we can reuse that heat somewhere else? Yeah. So we are more sustainable somewhere else in the process.
Definitely.
So I think it's important that we keep looking at that kind of stuff. It's good for the planet. It's important, but it's also a good way to cut costs.
Definitely.
I don't know what your opinion is, but if I look at the average environment, so back in the day, when we did not do public cloud.
True. Yeah.
We bought hardware, we built a data center, and we invested in it, right? It was like an investment. And you would do that, for 4 years, maybe 5 years.
5 years, and then you will cut it off.
Yeah, and then you write it off, you buy a new one. But then you always had to invest for the peak moment. So if somewhere in that period you were going to need that memory and that CPU because your business is growing, your initial investment, you would do that. So let's say you are going to need that capacity or you need that peak moment in 2.5 years time. So the first 2.5 years, that is wasting. It's overhead. It's wasting energy. Overhead, it's wasting money.
Definitely.
It's waste.
Yeah.
Because you're writing it off, so it becomes less valuable. It's using energy. You're not using it.
Exactly. So
we do that on public cloud as well. How many times do we not see people deploying stuff?
Leave it on.
Leave it on. Do you ever right size your stuff? I more often see. So on Azure, we have reservations, right? Where you can say, I've been using this for 6 months. I'm going to use this for the next 3 years. Let me purchase reservations so I pay less.
Yes.
The hourly rate goes down. Or even Azure savings plans where my consumption in general goes down from a pricing perspective.
Yeah.
I see that happening more often than right sizing.
I think I see that also. Right sizing is very important. Especially you have some tools also to calculate the amount of hours you want to spend on, let's say, a compute resource. So if you right size it, also make some plans about when you want to stop and when you want to start some resource if needed. Then you will, at the long run, maybe will be cheaper at the end than buying just a reservation. And then you have a win-win situation because then you have the sustainability. So you save your energy for your hardware, for your electricity and for your energy, but you can also save some cost in the long run. So yeah, definitely.
And here's an interesting thing because we're debunking what I normally say when green ops is also fin ops because more green is cheaper, and I think that's true if we do it.
Yeah.
If we do it well. And we're more efficient, like you said, right sizing.
Yeah.
It's also FinOps. It becomes cheaper. But to my previous example, FinOps does not always mean more sustainable.
No.
Because that's the example where we leave the machine running with the same SKU, the same hardware, but we do reservations. So yes, we make it cheaper, but not necessarily greener. In fact, we're committing to being less green for the next 3 years if we do reservations for 3 years and we don't do the right sizing.
No, it's a good point. If you look at the right sizing, people always look at my workload. Can I use a different SKU for that one? But you can also maybe use, for example, and I know it is not always for every scenario. But maybe you can also use spot VMs for it. Spot VMs are mostly hardware what's being overcommitted or not being used by Microsoft that you can use for your maybe your workloads that doesn't need the whole lot of capacity you filled in the beginning, if you know what I mean.
So how does that work? Is that like the cheaper compute that I can?
I think it's hardware that's being like you said. Normally in an on-premise environment, you buy for 3 or 4 years, 5 years an environment. You buy your hardware. Microsoft does exactly the same. I think they have hardware in the data centers, and the hardware there are the old, but still operational. You can still use them. You can use that. You can say that's a spot VM, so you can use that as a spot VM.
Oh, but I don't get an SLA or anything. It's there until it breaks down.
That is you will get a less warranty or less SLA on that one. But for some workloads, for test dev environments, it can be I think suitable, more suitable than a production environment.
So you could say that the fact that spot VMs exist, for us it's nice to do things cheaper and leverage the overhead that's left.
Yeah.
It's also Microsoft's way of being more sustainable and greener because let's use everything we have and let's not just put new hardware in there. But I think from a sustainability and pricing perspective, I know you at work spend a lot of time on that as well. Is every couple of years we get new versions of VMs.
Yeah.
Like V1, V2, V4, we're V6 now, I think.
I think with some are V6, yeah, the some E series, some D series, yeah, because if you let's say you have the same family, yeah, the same E family, the same D family, you will have new versions. A new version most of the time means that you have new hardware under the hood, a new CPU, new etc. But it also means that you will running that the machine you are running on is more efficient than the version 1 or version 2 or version 3. So more efficient energy-wise, more efficient to run your workload. So you will also benefit on right-sizing using new versions of an energy perspective, if you know what I mean. So it's good to right-size not only for cost, but also for using your hardware on an efficient manner, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
All right, that's an interesting take on things, and yeah. So use the new.
Always, I always advise use the newest SKU, the newest version, and it's not that if I say, hey, I will now run on a V6 or a V5. That the V3 and the V4 will being destroyed by Microsoft, that they are going to throw away. They will all those hardware in the data centers will also be used for storage and for other workloads. We don't see that on the front end, but on the back end they will use that hardware for other purposes.
Yeah.
So also Microsoft recycles their hardware in a different way. It's also sustainable, I think.
That's a good thing. That's interesting because I think we also get the recommendation like, hey, get rid of the V1s and V2s because although at some point they have to go, right?
Yeah.
Because they're
sometimes deprecated. Yeah.
You could also say that like for us as a customer of public cloud, it's also a responsibility at some point when Microsoft says we're going to stop supporting V1 and V2 virtual machines, that we need to migrate and stop using them. Why? Because they're older hardware.
Yeah.
They need to be replaced by new hardware.
Exactly.
We need room.
Yeah.
To place the new hardware, so it also helps with spacing and capacity. But it's also a way to get rid of less greener and less efficient hardware and replace it for more efficient hardware. So it's also a responsibility to use those new V4, V5, V6 virtual machines.
All those processor, all those hardware will be efficient at the long run. So always use the latest. Yeah, definitely.
And how much can sustainability cost us? And I mean, from a feature perspective, we say we need to be sustainable, green ups, let's be efficient, and then we're all using AI massively for everything we do. We use AI.
Real LLMs, yeah.
How does that go?
That's a good point. So I see all. I think that's a really good question because I see. It's a hot topic. AI. It costs a lot of money if you look at it climate-wise and also energy-wise. So I always laugh a little bit when people post something. Oh, I created this with my AI tool, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong, but you need to plant an extra tree in the garden, if you know what I mean. Sometimes to compel with your carbon footprint, but. It's just a discussion. It's just a joke. But
no, I think you have a point there. Yeah. I was on LinkedIn, but also I saw it internally as well that people at some point, there was like this one prompt.
Yeah.
Even people from Microsoft and I saw other people. We all want to be more sustainable, all green, and we're all preaching, let's be more sustainable. And then there was this one prompt where it was a very big prompt. So it takes a lot of energy token-wise, but also to generate because the model needs to work. And then we all use the big GPT-4 models. It generated an action figure.
Yeah.
An image of everyone was massively doing that, redoing it over. And I get what you're saying because, I mean, we use it as a running gag and as a joke, but at some point I'm thinking, well, if you as a person, the same person who's been generating 20 of these, start talking about sustainability, I've got questions for you.
Yeah,
I've got serious questions. Like, what are you doing?
That is a really good question. So don't get me wrong, I really like to use that also, and I also use it in my day-to-day business. That's not a problem, but I think, and that's maybe on the long run, also AI will eventually run maybe on different hardware, maybe can use hardware efficiency, and then it will be more sustainable. But if you talk about for a sustainable perspective, it will cost a lot of energy to use that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I've seen different models being used by customers as well. I think that's also an interesting take on things, because then it's also about money.
Yeah.
Because we're now in the era of AI agents, which usually leverage smaller models. I was in a hackathon the other day, and then we also looked at using agents, and then we asked it a question and need to come back with something. And we liked the result, but it was on GPT-4, which is an expensive model.
Yeah.
And then we also had GPT-4o mini, which is a cheaper model, smaller. But when we switched, we saw we got different results, not as desirable as the initial results. So then we started prompt engineering and improving the prompt until we got what we wanted from the GPT-4o model and the mini model. So that makes it cheaper and greener. I think that's also a thing.
That's a good point. So you need to make your prompts smarter and better. And then when your prompts are better and smarter, you can use also cheaper models then. That's cool, eh?
And then when we start hosting our own models, because then we do fine tuning, we grab a GPT model and we fine tune it with our own data and improve it. And then we need to host it.
Yeah.
And then where do you host it? And then we look at solutions like AKS. And that's also an interesting way to go about things, because then you have these NVIDIA GPUs that you can use. But then you also have interesting strategies. Like, does every deployment get its own GPU, which is insanely expensive and insanely not green at all.
No.
But then what you could do is things like GPU time slicing. So let's say you have a holiday home.
Yeah.
And you timeshare it. And you timeshare it with different families. And I always like to use the example, as long as not everyone is in the kitchen cooking, you're fine. If we're all in different rooms or at different times that we use the holiday home, we're fine. So you can actually split up a GPU like that. And I think that those are interesting.
That's a really good perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting ways to go about that. And then what I found, I did a session on that last year. If you do that with the NVIDIA client device and all that magic, you also get a Grafana dashboard where you can see the heat and the output of the GPU.
That's cool.
Which is interesting if you want to track the footprint and, when I send the prompt, I see it heating up because it needs to process stuff.
Yeah.
What's happening? That was an interesting way to measure things.
But that's cool because you then can measure your own prompting, right?
Yeah, you don't get that with OpenAI.
No.
That's not true.
So then you also can have those details and maybe get some, maybe in the long run get smarter. You will see the in the measurement that it will be. And then, then you will fix maybe not fix, but maybe you will adjust and have more control about your sustainability then.
Yeah, and also another good way to go about this is, how expensive do I let it be? A lot of the AI stuff is in proof of concept phase, and then we use the biggest models and the fastest stuff, but then it needs to go to production. Interesting conversation I had with the customer. Let's say you build a chatbot and it uses GPT-4 and that chatbot is on your website. And then you have a problem if you're using Azure OpenAI services, because is someone rate limiting whatever? Basically what you're saying is, hey, I've got a public website. Everyone can go there. Everyone can chat to my assistant. But I don't know if they're purchasing something or
no.
Because what I do know is that I'm giving them a blank check. Like, go ahead, up my bill, because that's what they're doing. They just keep generating tokens. And so you need strategies there. Like, what if they ask 3 questions and there's no satisfying answer? Do you then have someone in person managing the chat, for example?
Yeah, that's a good
So those are interesting because that's not just greener, but it's also cheaper.
Definitely.
So that's definitely interesting. And then I think with AI and with AI agents, they become smaller, so that we'll get there. But on an infrastructure perspective in general, we're also not really doing this scaling to zero, are we?
No, I don't think so.
But could we?
Zero? You mean zero in the sense no output? Let's
say I've got an application running, and nobody's using it at 7:35 in the evening. Does it scale back to zero and not consume anything?
I think you have always a little, but you can minimize it to almost zero. I think you will always have some things, because you can do let's say, for an Azure Virtual Desktop perspective. If you shut down a machine, deallocate it using a stop-start script, then a scaling plan, then it will also have some. There's always a power cable, so you have some output at the end. But you can, for a carbon footprint, you can minimize it to almost zero, I think.
Yeah, and you also have customer experience, right? Because I mean, if you look at the Green Software Foundation, they have very good sustainable design patterns that you can follow. Yeah. Scaling to zero is one of them. Yeah. But then it's like, what's the user experience? How cheap do you want to make it, and how green do you want to make it? Because I mean, if everything is turned off, if you go to a website and you want to order something and you click and you've got to wait a minute before things
it's not a user experience. So I think you have always something running in the background. The goal is maybe zero, but and on the front end maybe you see zero, but on the back end it's always a little output. So I mean, but you can go far with that, I guess.
I think your power plug, and that's a very interesting analogy. If we do a lot of AKS, and then we do KIDA. Yeah. And then with KIDA, we can scale the pods to zero. So there's no container running unless there's a request coming in, and containers are very fast in starting up. So what we can do with KIDA is have it look at logging, is an HTTP request on the ingress coming in. Yeah. We spin up the container and it's there just in time if the application is fast enough to start up, right? Yeah. Or we could even have one running, and then when additional connections come in, we spin it up to more. But then, yes, we are scaling the workload to zero, but we still have an AKS cluster running.
Yeah, that costs power.
But KIDA still needs to be running, and that still costs power. So I think you make a very fair and good point. We could say we can scale to zero. Nobody can scale to zero. Scaling to zero means pulling all the plugs, living in the Middle Ages. That's scaling to zero when it comes to
but you can minimize. You can minimize almost to zero, I guess, with different workloads. But yeah, zero is. I think it's an utopia.
Interesting take on things. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's more like, can we build good scaling strategies? Can we scale to the absolute minimum, and can we scale to the absolute maximum, where we want to be at the maximum as short as possible?
Yeah, and I think that is something that the goal needs to be. Yeah, that is the goal, and we can certainly provide that. Also, with the help of the customer, you also need to know the workloads of the customer, the income. You can before that you can monitor that. You can monitor the workload, and then based on that details, you can create your scaling plan. So yeah, we can provide that.
And then we have also things like Azure Policy, because there's Azure regions and data centers that are greener than others, right? Because they're newer, so they're more efficient, they're greener. Yeah. So you could even internally have your Azure Policy configured if location is not an issue. And I think if you remain within the EU as European people and companies, you're usually fine deploying something in a data center in the EU. Yeah. That we configure an Azure Policy like, hey, you can deploy to these regions because they are green. Yeah.
That will be very cool. Of create some automation to check which together with an Azure Policy to check which is at this moment the greenest environment to deploy my workloads.
And let's run in there.
That is, I think, and that's a doable situation, I guess.
That also works for. That really works for like jobs, job processing, processing that needs to happen at some point. If it needs to run continuously, that's hard to move, right? Yeah. Because even something that's running, moving that to another region, that also takes energy. So maybe that's a good maybe one. You're not winning a lot with that, but I mean.
But if you need to spin up new resources that are not running in, let's say, already running in region A, and you so this is a completely new deployment. you can deploy then your different workloads using automation, and then it will not cost you extra. It will cost you only the workload, I guess. You already done in region A.
And start cleaning up your stuff.
That's really
orphaned resources.
Orphaned resources, yeah.
That is the number of orphaned resources I come across on a weekly basis. It's insane.
It's also because I think customers and also people most of the time don't know that for some resources, compute resources, we see a front end resource, but on the back end, it's always compute, right?
Yeah.
So for every stuff not used, there's a computer running in the background. So if we leave that in our environment, then you will leave a computer running.
And it's not just public IPs and disks and stuff, because usually when we talk about orphaned resource, they go, oh, you've got so many unattached public IPs and so many unattached disks. But what I also see a lot, and I mean, it's just a storage account or it's just a network watcher. Or people deploy something, I need to use the Cloud Shell. Mm-hmm. Let's deploy a new storage account.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm cleaning up environments, I have to delete like 20 storage accounts because every person needs their own storage. You don't.
No.
But it's what we do. I'm too lazy to find out where the other one is. So let's just create a new one.
Create new.
Yeah, but that's like when everyone does that. And it's not just our customers or Intercept. It's everyone using Azure does that.
Yeah.
Anytime someone demos something, you look at the Azure port and you see like a list of storage accounts just for the Cloud Shell.
Yeah.
If everyone all over the world does that, and we stop doing that, I think that also has a significant impact.
It will save you a lot of compute resources.
I think it definitely will.
Yeah, that's a good
definitely
point.
will.
That's a good point.
But I mean, in the end, it's how green and how much will it cost you? I think more performance is more energy usage.
Yeah.
But more performance, if you do it well, also will make you more money. So then you accept the energy usage.
Yes.
But then you want to use the best hardware for that, which is most efficient.
Yeah, it's the most efficient, definitely.
The other thing, and that's maybe one unpopular opinion, I'm wondering about your thoughts. I would say that for things that are common, like infrastructure, VM, compute, things that we've been doing for years, we can do green ops, FinOps, sustainability very well. Yeah. It's like whenever it's commodity stuff, it matured to a level where we can implement and where we can look at green ops.
Yeah.
If it's, on the other hand, we also need to accept that new developments like AI, they cost energy, and we accept that.
Yeah.
The good thing with AI is now from the start, we're thinking about, can we do it greener? A good example, or an interesting example is, I find this very ungreen, by the way. Normally when NVIDIA has new hardware or new GPUs, it would take, once every 1-2 years, and Microsoft will put them in the data centers. Yeah. Now they're developing so fast, everyone wants to stay ahead. New GPUs are developed every 6 months and being placed in data centers every 6 months. What happens to the old stuff? I mean, so that's, we accept that the rapid development of AI is not as green as we want it to be.
No.
The same with quantum computing. I mean, the amount of energy that takes, and we're accepting that. And I think that's okay.
I think that's part of evolution, maybe evolution in the tech market, because we can create great stuff with it. We can use the tools to do great stuff. That's why people accept the technology and also the complications what it will take effect to this technology. Because we live in a world, I think, also with AI right now, also with ChatGPT, and we cannot do without anymore. And I think if we are a year further, definitely not, but also we will find also ways, like you said, for the prompting and that sort of stuff, and also maybe for the agents to make that efficient and make it smarter, and maybe to also for NVIDIA to place the hardware in different workloads.
And I think, the good thing is that right now, whenever we developed stuff in the past, we didn't care about sustainability and green environment. We just, build hardware, we place in a data center. With AI, we are actually we're still at the beginning of the AI era, right? It's all very new. We are already looking at doing it more efficiently, more greener and better. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But we can also say that, efficiency and sustainability are two different things.
Yeah.
But they often go hand in hand. The more efficient AI will become, look at GPT-4o Mini, the more sustainable it will become.
Definitely. Definitely.
And the more we will realize we don't need these expensive GPT-4 models. They're fun, but often for a lot of things you do, you don't need the big model.
I think it's work smarter maybe. Adapt to the technology and be better at using the technology and become efficienter when you become better at technology. Yeah, it's also adapting yourself, I guess.
Yeah, agreed.
Definitely.
All right. And with that, we're at the end of the episode.
Cool.
On to the next one. Thank you for joining. Everyone, thank you for listening, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.